Playing music is it's like a passport to go anywhere in the world. You don't even need to speak the language. If you can play music or sing a song, it's a passport to go anywhere you want to. Just a lovely thing. I had worked for an insurance company which went bust in 1983, and I was thinking of moving to America, and this pal of mine said he had a pub up outside Dundalk and I should give it a go if I wanted it before going to America. So I said we'd try it out. So I was up there for 4 years. We didn't make any money, but it was a nice life, So then another pal of mine came to me and he says, there's this pub in Dublin, we should buy it, and he bought it anyway, and I came in here, and I've been here since 1987, so nearly 40 years. My father had played in the corner there with the St. Mary's Music Club, and some of the people that have since played music here were playing music back then. So it's a great kind of connection to the past, We started it on a Friday night. We had the music, which is to this day is still being played up there under the window, and we had 4 musicians that night. My brother Neely, who was a lovely piper. Sean O'Brien was a flute player. Those two are still with us. Then we had Vincent Harrison, a fiddle player from County Leitrim, who had retired from New York. We had Larry Kinsley, who was a concertina player from Wexford. We're all lovely musicians, and they started it off here. We extended it to a Saturday night and then a Sunday night, so that was the whole weekend. Now, this didn't happen in the space of 6 months or a year. It took time. And then 2 girls came in from, one from North County Dublin, Jackie Martin, and another one from Leitrim, Lorraine Sweeney, and they were students. One of their projects was to play in a pub, and they were only young girls at the time, and we put them there on a Tuesday afternoon, and they played there for maybe 2 months. And they were delighted. They got all their project done, and so I asked them in to play, which was new to us and new to them, an early session, which was 7 to 9:30 on a Thursday. And Jackie Martin is still playing here, 25 years later, So it's just amazing like that. But we kept going until we had music 7 nights a week, and we advertised it as 7 nights a week. The first time I ever came into this pub here, my father brought me in here. He was from County Leitrim, a place called Barnacoola, which would be on the border of Longford and Leitrim. He was a farmer's son, the eldest of 7. He decided it wasn't really feasible for him to hang around to wait and inherit the farm, so he put his fiddle under his arm, got a train to Dublin, and ended up here. He came in at Broadstone stations. There was no place to play music, They weren't allowed to play music in pubs, and they weren't allowed, to express their Irishness in a cultural fashion. So anybody that spoke Irish or played music was looked down upon because of the empire of Great Britain and Ireland, as it was called at the time, and it being the first country they ever invaded. It was the example to the rest of the world of what the great British Empire was doing, so they needed somewhere, and out of it came influx of other musicians from different parts of the country, and ended up being called the Fiddlers Club. They were in danger of being evicted out of their premises in Molesworth Place because they had no money to pay the rent, so they went busking one St. Patrick's Day, which was illegal at the time, and they wore false beards and moustaches and top hats, and And he ended up busking with a guy called Tommy Wreck outside what was then the Irish Press Office. There was a guard on duty, and this guy was a fella called Matt Kiernan, and he was a nil and pipe maker, but he was also a guard. And he kept an eye on them and let nobody annoy him, and they were able to pay off all their arrears in rent and pay their rent in advance, and they were able to order 3 practice sets of uilleann pipes. But they were able to move forward, because if they lost the connection with the club, people would disappear and they would never get them back together again. First time I came down here, they were making a film out here called The Spy That Came In From the Coal with Richard Burton and Claire Bloom, and it was the setting for Berlin after the Second World War, and to look at it you could understand why. It was pretty derelict. The whole right-hand side of the square was basically missing. The left-hand side, the distillery, it was very neglected and abandoned. The first day that I came here, I borrowed a car off a pal of mine, and when I went out after closing time, the car had been robbed and was used in a hit and run. Any car that was robbed or damaged was usually abandoned out there, because there were plenty of scrapyards out there to take them. And there was an awful lot of homelessness around here. There was a sadness about it. But a lot of people that used to come here were people who were on shift work, and people that were going to court, and people that wanted parts for their cars, waiting for the scrapyards to open. It was an eclectic mix of people, and people on their way to work. I remember we had a district court judge in here one morning drinking before he went and sat on the bench, you know. So there was a mix of everyone. And we were living upstairs, and this is when I got married, I was living here. And Tomas, he was our first child, and he was brought home from the maternity hospital to here, and this was our home for a couple of years, you know.
Growing up, Dad would often just take us in here and we'd be running around wild, pestering people. I learned how to play drafts here. Just playing customers, sitting around, being a nuisance to everyone else while Dad was working away. The Cobblestone very much part of the family. It would very much be our, the centre of our, I suppose, social lives, social circles. It's the home away from home. Whenever we were up in the parents' house, if we were going to town, you'd get the bus down as far as Smithfield anyway, and stop off in the Cobblestone, see what the crack is, go into town, stop back in the Cobblestone before going home. Sometimes you could stay here all night.
There was everybody doing deals, and there was everybody solving the problems of the world, but it was an amazing thing to witness, you know. I mean, I used to get a story off everybody, you know. If you were quiet, you had time to talk to people. And the stories were amazing, you know, amazing. World, everyone has a story.
I first heard about it a little bit before it became public, that there were just kind of, I won't say whispers, Dad, he just mentioned that the landlord would be sending people in to look at the building, and I'd be asking him, like, what's the buzz? Like, what does he want to do? And Dad would be like, I don't know, but hopefully he'll keep us in his plans.
The landlord arrived here and he put a notice on the door there and said, we're building a 9-story hotel.
Nothing was taken into consideration because it was just seen as a cash cow, you know, to take away 80% of your operational area.
The bathrooms would have been in here. The performance area would have been reduced. There was no smoking area. There was no place to teach. We were down to maybe 30% of the area we would previously have had. It wasn't nice, the thoughts of it.
When we came down, I remember standing upstairs looking out a window with my dad. He was incredibly emotional about it because we're looking out the window and seeing thousands of people on Smithfield Square. We couldn't believe it. He couldn't bring himself to actually appear at that, like he was here, but he couldn't bring himself to go on the march or appear in front of everyone. He didn't want to like break down crying in gratitude in front of everyone.
The movement for saving the Cobblestone didn't come from me. It came from the people who were attending here, and they drove the whole thing. I mean, much to my surprise, they all got involved in it, and it was a kind of a grassroots movement.
What we saw would be the death of the heart of Dublin for us, anyway. So it felt fitting that it shouldn't just be another march. It should definitely be like a funeral march. I think the fact that we were able to, I don't know, put some sort of identity on that march.
The decision by An Bord Pleanála to refuse permission, like the Dublin City Council had refused permission, but An Bord Pleanála added in something that we had never seen before. They added in a proviso that culture was now an established culture as a reason for turning down planning permission application, and it related to what was going on here. So from our point of view, it was probably a marvellous success. Now, based on the time my father and all his pals came to Dublin and were trying to find a place to play music, this is a major leap forward. And to see culture included as a reason why planning permission would be refused or maybe even granted. A taxi man said to me here one day, a typical taxi man quip, and he said, "Oh, you show everyone where the Cobblestone is," he says. "There's no point in me saying that's where the Cobblestone used to be." What is played on the stage is rehearsed and decided before you step on the stage. Whereas here, there are usually two people who kind of anchor a session. There is a formality to it, so you come in and you join and you play their tunes, or you're asked to play and you play, and there maybe singers come in. It's what happens without the formality of what goes on stage. We get them in from all over Europe and America. It's amazing. We had two guys here from Mongolia one time, playing, and they sat in and played. It was mind-boggling to watch them playing,
It's all of our music. It doesn't have to be this music that belongs to like a subset of people who gatekept it for so long while everyone else was engaging with influences from England and America. It's all of our music, and the fact that it's now a cool thing and it's shown as cool to engage with and acceptable to engage with, and not just tied to tradition, but there's very much space for it to evolve and become something new.
A thing we started here was an education process, teaching adults how to play music. And it's going over 20 years. Now, we don't teach them how to play the instrument, we teach them tunes, and then we bring them off to meet similar groups playing outside of their safe centre. They are now out in the world playing around at sessions and flag shows, which is, in my mind, is a total 100% success that this has actually happened. And we have brought loads of groups of musicians to various festivals. I think our first trip was to Aberdeen, and then we went to Denmark a couple of times. We've been to Switzerland, Slovakia would have been one. And then we've been to all the Baltic countries, The next generation are gone further all over the world. The language didn't matter. It was all about trying to play music and make a connection. As things are going, we have every reason for optimism into the future to see that this will be here in another 100 years. And Tomas is fully behind this whole idea of continuation, Yeah.
He's a dreamer, and he's done his best to see his dream come true with this place, and it's an honor to be with him on that journey. He's an incredibly generous person. He just wants to see everyone do well and thrive. He would have raised us, I suppose, under a kind of a philosophy of a rising tide lifts all ships. If you're in a position of privilege to help out other people, do that. And that's what he's shown us, kindness and generosity and encouragement. I love working with my dad. I've been doing it for years and I've chose to continue to do it. The ripple effect that he's had on the area and so many people's lives, he's my hero.
I like to think that my children and anybody else that's involved here, and there are a lot of people involved here and see what's going on, and particularly the ones that are teaching in the background and the ones that are playing out here, like they see a future in this. And it's great to see them and the tourists coming in here, like they leave here with a very satisfied smile on their face, mainly because they're able to communicate with the musicians, they're able to communicate with the staff, they're able to communicate where they come from and what it's like to experience what this is about, you know. My name is Tom Mulligan. I'm a publican here for the last near 40 years. We see the job as publican here a bit more than selling beer. We also involve culture.
Guinness do you think you've poured?
Well, I didn't come here till I was my mid-30s or so. So I mean, I missed out maybe on 20 years of pint pulling before that. So I'd say millions of pints anyway. You know, I'm sure Tomas will be able to. He'll break my record, whatever record I hold for pint pulling. He'll break that.